I'm doing I'm doing okay. I was at the emergency room last night because I don't know if you can tell, but my temple is now swollen.
Yeah, I can.
Yep. Telling you, cancer is a bear to deal with. So they told me to go in and to the closest emergency room because they were worried it was a temporal arteritis. And I got there and it wasn't. The doctor said no because I would see like a vein above it that would be inflamed as well. And to just have my oncologist look at it today, because I had an appointment this morning, who said, oh, yeah, that's to be expected for the type of cancer you have. So those could pop up anywhere at any time. But it's like, and oh, don't worry, we'll radiate it if it, but he needed to confirm. I had an MRI done yesterday that was a dye one for my next level of treatment. And so he's like, well, once I confirm that it's what I think it is, then we can radiate it. So
What?
I know it's just, so all I can do is shake my head because it doesn't hurt. That's the nice part. This is one symptom that doesn't hurt, but it clearly just popped up in a day. So
uh,
it's weird, just so strange. And then it is like that with multiple myeloma. So when you go to the hospital, as soon as you say multiple myeloma, to doctors or nurses that are aware of it, then they go, "Oh yeah." You say, "Oh
that's
yeah, I'm in a great deal of pain." Oh, what was it? Multiple myeloma? Oh yeah. Okay.
oh,
So
oh yeah. That's that's great. Just what I want to hear, man. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I guess we're done.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So then they sent me home and just said, "Hey, go, wait till you see your oncologist in the morning, and have them look at the MRI because anything we could do would be just basically doing another CAT scan or something like that to tell you the same thing they're going to tell you when you just had an MRI done." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just went home.
Uh,
But I was
but
there late, so tired, and then got there today for my treatment and didn't get my I got my blood work done, but I didn't get my treatment because now with this new thing, they need to verify what it is before I go do the chemo. And they want to switch the chemo to something else. So I'll go back again next week, have my blood work done, and then I'll start my pills at the same time again, but a new pill. They want to start me on something new.
is this gonna be the pill that nobody else or you shouldn't even touch, like the
Yes,
other
that's
ones
what
that
they
you had?
always are, and you have to go through that whole survey. Please don't give this to pregnant women, which I'm like, who am I giving this to? Like, it's not a popular drug on the streets. I've tried selling it. It's like, do you want some chemotherapy to take with your pregnancy?
Oh, hey, I
Do
got
you want
some
some
friends coming
chemotherapy
over.
for makes you feel real good?
Yeah, I got some friends coming over later, Dita. Can I get some of those chemo drugs? We want to
Yeah.
really, you know, get
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. So today was not a great day. Yesterday was even worse for me, but today I actually had an opportunity to talk to a lady who has been in treatment, not for the same type of cancer, but for 5 years, that she happened to be in the infusion room next to me. And it was really interesting because when we have down days, like today for myself, and you go into it thinking, like I did yesterday, that I'm done. I'm so tired. I'm burnt out. I don't want to hear one more thing. When I felt this yesterday, I was like, okay, yeah, we're done because I'm not having them open my head up again,
Mhm.
and going through that again. When it could pop up in 2 weeks, another one's gonna emerge. And I talked to her and she's been dealing with it for 5 years, and it's started in a different location in her body and then has moved to her head. So it started in one location and then she went through treatment. And then the next thing they know, they recognize that she had a tumor growing in her head. And now she's back again, with another tumor growing in her head. And she's doing the chemo and the radiation. And her and I were talking about it because I think it makes it um, easier to talk to someone who, though others can empathize,
Mhm.
until you have gone through it, you do get why you get to a point sometimes, as a patient where you're like, I'm just so done. Like, I got to have something go my way. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of like the mood I'm in right now, even though I'm trying to be positive and I joke and I laugh. But the reality is like, it really was these last couple days, yesterday and today, those one of those times when you're just like, you know what, I don't know, this isn't any fun, and you're telling me this could pop up anywhere, all over my body. And so we're going to try something new. And here's a list of 17 symptoms, or side effects that are going to come with it. The top one being nausea. Almost everyone feels nauseous, but we can give you medication for that. Well, I'm already on medication for nausea, but okay, we can give you medication. And the next one is diarrhea. So I'm gonna be throwing up and
That's great.
so that's fantastic. And then, you just go down the list. And again, you go, when you're in the moment that I'm in right now, it's that feeling of that doesn't sound like a pleasant time in life. So do I
I
want to do
I
it?
can't believe you can't sell those drugs on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody will buy them. On top of that, if at least somebody was buying one or two, I might
Right.
feel better by like, yeah, I can go through that because what? I mean, those pills are about, what, 7, 8,000 a piece. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you know how much that how many of those my medical bills that would pay off if I just sold a couple a month? That how fast
it
I could get out of medical debt? Just a couple a month.
well, I think eventually we're gonna have 6 listeners, and so I would like to welcome those eventual people. How about
Yes.
we think of this title? Friends Facing Cancer,
Yes, I like it.
right?
Yeah.
So episode 1, and, um, I was thinking, right, that we could do a couple things, right? Share some questions from the 2 journals that we're creating,
Absolutely.
right? Um, talk about Little House on the Prairie. I did watch episode 814.
Yep, and I rewatched it because it is such a good one. Such a
Nice.
good one. Yeah.
And then whatever else that we want to, but for me, it's like I want to do this because this is just an awesome excuse for us to Zoom as
Yes.
much as we can
Yeah.
fit.
We don't even care what anybody else is thinking. We're
Yeah.
having a great conversation.
So, um, yeah, and so, but today's a little bit goofy. Usually I'm much more like punctual and stuff. So in about 15, 20 minutes, right in that door over there, Colin's gonna show up and it's supper time. So just to give
Okay.
that
Okay. All righty.
normally I'll have longer if we want. I'll plan on like
Okay.
an
Yeah, no,
hour.
that's fine.
Or-
That's absolutely fine. Because I'll
uh,
probably I have one thing to do for my part-time job at the school, and then I'm gonna take a nap, I think, or go to bed early. I'm
well,
exhausted.
hey, how about you introduce yourself and then include how many damn jobs that you have right now too to be paying for stuff as you're
Well,
fighting multiple
yes. Well,
myeloma.
my name is Deita Thompson. I am a retired teacher, so I have a pension, and I also collect my Social Security disability for having worked for as many years as I've worked. And I'm currently holding two part-time jobs that I can work from home and juggle my schedule around it because medical treatment for cancer is extremely expensive, and the insurance companies don't pay nearly what you would think they would pay for the level of treatment that I get. So in order to keep myself afloat, I have to work.
And you're in Arizona, right? So
Right.
isn't your teacher's pension like 8 pennies and some peanuts?
It sure is. It makes you question. It really does make you question, like, really, I taught for that long, and I have two master's degrees, and this is what I get at the end of it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Because now when I used to tell my high school student that dropped out, I had a student that dropped out to weld at the power plant. I was like, "You're making a terrible mistake." Now I'm like, why didn't I drop out with him? He could have
Oh,
taught me how to weld. We could have retired together.
and it couldn't have made your chances of cancer worse.
Correct.
Work welding at the nuclear plant.
No, it sure couldn't. Ah.
Well, my name's Steve Anderson. My claim to fame is being Dita's friend, which I think is awesome. Um, so that's on my business card.
Yeah. Author,
Yeah,
playwright,
Dita's
let's make
friend.
sure we put it all in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Uh,
so, this, it's I got when you So like a month or so ago, we talked about this, putting together some journals, one for the person with
Right.
cancer, one for the friends of the person. And when you sent me your set of questions, and I had actually just finished mine like a week or two before, that made me so happy, right? And because it's like, oh, cool. It's so dumb, but in my family, this is part of the Anderson gene. It's like
Hmm.
we don't get together unless there's something to do. And if there's
Yeah.
nothing to do, we'll make it up. It's like, oh, you're coming over? Okay, let's build a shed. I mean,
Yeah.
there has to
Yeah.
be a purpose. So this is like,
Yeah.
oh, perfect excuse to talk to you about the journal and then thinking, oh, hey, let's share some questions
Right.
from the journal.
Yeah.
And this is an awesome excuse for us to talk. So I'm taking it.
Right.
And as much as we can jam these in,
Yeah. And
understanding.
today would be one of those days that journaling would be good to get those feelings, the emotions, the thoughts that pop in your head out. So when you have people like me that are going through it, and even just like us having that conversation of sharing it, it definitely makes you more open. And if I lose my words, I'm on chemo and they have a lot going on, but it definitely makes you more open to being vulnerable. That's the word I want to use. To how many people would you admit to that, today is a day where I feel like I don't know if this fight's worth it.
Yeah.
Even though I can tell you the other side of me is very much like, yeah, we're fighting till the end. We are not going to just roll over and say we're done. But today is one of those days when you're like, I got to tell myself that. Today I'm going to have to talk to myself about this is not done. And so, yes, it's just a bad day, just a bad day. And that reminder.
Man. Hey, so what what's the last thing you want to hear me say when you're at this spot? You know what I mean?
Just
What's
give
the
up. You're right. It's not worth it.
okay, I'm writing that down. When Dita is down,
Just
don't
give up.
tell her it's right and give up.
Yeah. I think what's important to me is for someone not to just say, "Oh, I get it," if they don't honestly get it. I
Oh,
think it's better to yeah, that is a tough situation, and I can understand, why you feel that way, at that moment, because at least then I get the empathy. I'm not trying to get somebody to feel sorry for you,
right.
but the empathy of I can understand you're not crazy for thinking that was a lot in one day, or that yes, I can see why when one more knot pops up
Yeah.
somewhere on your body that you can say, yeah, I don't necessarily want to do this again, knowing what you just went through.
This, this isn't even close, and I know that. And but for myself, there was 2 days when I had serious back pain, like
Mhm.
really, it was hard to move. I wasn't doing anything because the pain was so much. And by the second day, I'm like, holy freaking crap, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
what and then I just had it 2 days, and I know you've gone through
Hmm.
multiple experiences that are
Right.
way more than that. And so I totally understand.
It's exactly the same.
And so, but as far as the empathy goes, right, I can at least like I've tasted a sip from that cup that
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
drinking fully
Yeah.
from. And
Yeah.
I uh, I am so glad that you have a sense of humor. Or
I think it helps.
I think yes, why part a part
Yeah.
of why you're
Still
it's
here after they were like they were so positive when they first met me. Like, she's done. Put her in that supply closet, throw a bed in there. She'll never know the stacked furniture on the right because she's probably not going to wake
ah,
up.
I
Uh,
I will never forget um Beanie Weenies.
yes.
And this is 1989, maybe beginning of yeah, it's 1989 in the fall. We're in California at the Defense Language Institute,
Yep.
going through the Polish language course, and right, we had to have the door open in the barracks, right? Because
Yep.
you were a woman, and we're talking and we're joking the dumbest jokes, including
Yeah.
flutter kicks
Yes. It's a with
with
beanie
beanie
weenies, right?
weenies strapped to your
To your
ankles.
ankles. Yeah.
And we were laughing so hard.
Yeah.
People came from other rooms and like, what
Right.
is going on here? And we're just like, beanie weenies. They're like left knowing we were crazy.
Yeah. They should have identified us then. That's when they should have carted us off. Like, yeah, these two. I'm not sure what's going to happen with them for the rest of their life.
Fools. But,
Yeah.
well, hey, how about I was thinking we could do one question
Mhm.
and then, and I even one question, and then if there's time, talk a little bit because I'm thinking because of the shorter one for this one, we'll probably have to talk about Little House episode
Okay.
814 twice.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds good.
so, but I was thinking of your questions, Dita's journal questions. Um, is there anyone in particular that you want to jump out with, or should I just read one
Just
of the
read one.
first
Yeah.
ones?
Pick one. Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. After a diagnosis, you may find yourself reflecting on times or incidents in your life that you may have had a forewarning that something was wrong health-wise. For some, it seems like a shock and to come completely out of nowhere. But looking over signs or symptoms of many types, we can say some of the minor symptoms we had and didn't think they were serious, like fatigue, loss of appetite, headaches, etc. Did you experience any symptoms prior to your diagnosis that you are now thinking might have been an indicator of cancer? Looking back, do you think you were ignoring a more serious issue or were the symptoms just a coincidence with the later diagnosis? Will you be able to forgive yourself for overlooking the signs?
Okay, and that actually was a serious thought process that I had early on because once I, was made aware that I had cancer, then it became the thought of, well, when did I get this? Especially because I was so late stage, when I was diagnosed. So it's like, well, how could I be late stage? My back is just hurting. I fell trying to take care of my sister who, was a 24 care patient and working and teaching at the same time. So it was one of those ideas that no, I'm just exhausted. I fell, I injured it. I need to relax, take the stress off of it, not do any more lifting. And so then when I started thinking back and talking to my oncologist, because I have a fantastic oncologist, he was like, well, there would have been earlier signs. The problem with multiple myeloma is nobody tests for multiple myeloma unless they ask to be tested for multiple myeloma. And nobody asks for multiple myeloma because nobody's heard of multiple myeloma. So the only time it's ever tested is when somebody comes in the situation where they're doing blood work and there's something different about the blood. So when I think back to, I had shingles at a very young age, and that's unusual, for someone at my age to have gotten shingles. That would be one of the first, that's typically a symptom. I would run anemic all the time. And that just, I honestly credit it to my family because my mom was always anemic. So I was like, oh, we just run anemic in our family. I had other issues where I had shingles outwardly, and then I had what they called internal shingles, and I had never heard of that. Again, you blow my mind with this one. But at that point, when they did the internal shingles, they drew blood and were testing, and this thing that it said was that there was something unusual about the blood. That was what it came back with, that there was something, and I'm probably paraphrasing it because now I can't remember if it said exactly unusual but it recommended that you go see your primary care physician about your blood work. So of course you go, and then they run a typical panel. And like, oh yeah, you're a little low on iron, your blood pressure was high at the moment, you know, but no one said cancer and no one said multiple myeloma. And I wouldn't have even known to ask, well, did you happen to check for multiple myeloma? You just said that there was something unusual about the blood. So knowing the damage I've had to my kidneys and to my liver because of the time I went undiagnosed and the damage that was happening to my bones, because now I have scallop bones and I've lost 3 inches of height because of my back, where the compressive fractures. Then then I did start thinking, why didn't I push? And then now I'm blaming myself because I didn't know about something I didn't know about, you know?
Well, and everything I know about you too is that you just move forward,
And I do.
whatever comes. And
You just keep pushing, go on, because, oh, okay, well, that's minor. Okay, so yep, I've got internal shingles, and so I'm going to be in a lot of pain for, 7 to 10 days, and you're going to put me on this medication. Oh,
so
okay.
so have you, the last of your question, right? I can I could see some potentially anger being in there, but did you need to forgive yourself, and have you forgiven yourself for,
I
you know,
did. I did because I thought, especially knowing that I'm leaving my son, who's an adult but young, behind, that I did have to say, I didn't do this to him on purpose. He didn't need to lose his aunt and then a
yeah,
year later be dealing with, at the same time, actually, for a while, dealing with his aunt who had these major issues and me who's having these major issues. So I did have to forgive myself, but not so much because I realized I didn't ignore it. I didn't know. It's ignorance. I was ignorant of all of what this could mean, and so that it was definitely not done on purpose. So why am I blaming myself as if somehow I went, I really want to have this and I want to die an early death because it's not curable. So, but I did have to forgive myself. And then once I forgive myself, that's when I started thinking about, so then what do I want to do with this time that's left? And that's when I realized that, okay, I can forgive myself. So now I don't have to feel guilty about what I haven't accomplished, but what can I do in the time I have left?
wow, that seems like totally necessary, right? To get
Yes.
out of the
Mm.
guilt that you were feeling. To
Yeah. Yep.
how do you how did you do it? Was there anything specific, or you're just like, hey, you know what I mean? I forgive myself, and was it that
No, I think
simple? Or
part of it was I started volunteering at an organization called Nourish in downtown Phoenix. And so even though I couldn't stand very, very long, can't walk, can't lift, that kind of thing, but I could sort through donated clothes, sitting at a table, I could sort through donated clothes and like these can be put on a hanger, that kind of thing. But I was talking to the people around me in that organization who were elderly and they're dealing with their own health issues. And then it's like, they didn't cause their own, and you are very empathetic for the situation they're in, for the limitations they have, because all of us who were limited were like in the room of sorting,
okay,
and then so the people who could do other things were doing the food boxes and moving the clothes from the sorting room to they have a store that's free so that people can come in and get so many items per day for free from it, and that's from those donated items. And so those are the people who are well body, well health, and they're good health, and that kind of thing. So that's fantastic. And then I just started, as I listened to people, going, there is absolutely no reason. I would tell them, why are you blaming yourself
mhm,
because of your own health issues? They're health issues, that's not your fault. Now, if you told me that you did some damage to yourself purposely, that's different. But I'm listening to you have some of the same symptoms I have or worse, and you didn't cause that. You were working and fine and then sick. That's what happened. Well, that was the same story I am. I was working fine and then sick. So get over it. And that was the part of the bless you, get over it. And so, but it was by working there that made me really appreciate, for one, that I was still alive, and for two, to realize that if I don't blame them for their own situation, then how can I blame
mm,
myself for my own situation? And then it allowed me, like I said, to open my mind up a little bit more to for one, I really truly believe in service to the community. So I was able to do that again. But then also understanding that this is the road I'm on, but not because I chose the road, not
okay.
because I made myself take a detour and that's what caused me to be on the road. Health is health, you know?
W
And It's not from smoking, obviously, but I'm going to use that as an example. You know, so a smoker who gets lung cancer is not any, even though I know that smoking is bad, I wouldn't blame them for getting lung cancer because the same, another person who's in the same situation can smoke the same amount and not get lung cancer. So there are things that are just out of our control,
Right.
you
Well,
know?
and there's also too, it's like it's kind of like, wait, I don't know anybody else's appetite, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what their addiction is. My dad started smoking cigarettes when he was 12,
Yeah.
right? And his dad had died when he was 5, and just, smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes at 12. And he didn't quit till he was 40. And the only reason he quit is because, and this was when I was in the army, he had inflamed intestinal. He had to have emergency surgery because he was going to die, and they took out, like 3 feet of his colon. And
Uh-huh.
right before he went out, the anesthetist, I think, said, "Do you smoke?" And he's like, "Yes." And it clicked that his survival chances were less
Right.
because he smoked. And he was like, "Oh." And
Right.
that's what it took, and he was done. But
Yep. So, and I think for others, that forgiving yourself is going to be important if you did what I did. And I don't think it's so uncommon, at least based on the people I talk to, for them to at some point be looking back thinking, well, I remember when I, went that whole week with the headache and decided I wasn't going to spend the money to go to the doctor. So now they blame themselves because I should have spent the money for the doctor to find
yeah,
out I had a tumor, and but yeah, because we all make decisions like that every day in our life. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to result in a brain tumor because
yeah.
you had a headache for a week. And so getting yourself to the point where you can say, yeah, that's not my fault. It's something that's happened. It's put me on a different journey, but it's not something I chose. And so that's when you can forgive.
Wow. And I think too, the way that you say it, even if, say, you're like the person, yep, I knew smoking was bad, I did it anyways, just taking
Hmm.
that one, right? For you, forgiving yourself allowed you to start moving away from the guilt, and back to living and being in the
Right.
present. And what is more
Right.
important when,
Right.
none of us know how long we're going to live, right? But when you get a
Right.
diagnosis like you, they actually put a kind of end date
Yeah.
window.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I
They
couldn't think of,
they absolutely did. Yeah.
yeah. So I couldn't think of anything more important than to be able
Hmm.
to face that, let go of any guilt that you're carrying
Hmm.
and self-blame for having it, so you can, you know, do the things that you want to be, and
Right.
live fully.
Yeah. And it took me probably right, I think it was around the time right after my stem cell transplant when I was at the point of nope, and I want to the things that were important to me before are still important to me, and so I wanna do those things. I wanna travel and see people that I have not seen in a while. I want to go to the little house on the prairie. So I wanna see Walnut Grove. I want to, volunteer time at Nourish. I want to share my, passion for sustainability and those types of things. I wanna spend time with my grandkids. Though then all of a sudden those became more of a priority because I was spending a lot of time prior to that just in the house. Do you know what I mean? Just watching TV. And I was going to the bookmobile and getting a book, but here and there and reading. And I like to bake. So I like talking and joking and laughing with people. But moving myself to the path of, no, this isn't it. This isn't what you wanted to do. This is not how you wanted to live your life. So here's what you're going to do. You've It's not your fault. So now what do you want to do with what's left? What do you want to do with what you have left? And appreciate each day, even though there still may be some bad days, but knowing that you're still doing things that are important to you.
So this is a good segue. We might not get to the episode, but why Walnut Grove? Why have we been to two Little House on the Prairie pageants in the last 2 years, which I have thoroughly enjoyed? But,
Yes.
well, okay,
Because
I'm going to take that back. I'm still frustrated that the actor last year
yes.
did not.
Did not
match.
do Paul justice.
Yes, good person, but
Yeah,
I, I wasn't pleased. I thought
yeah.
the but save that for a
Michael
different one.
Landon's turning in his grave.
Yes,
Like, what?
but
I
why?
think it was because growing up, I was in our generation, we were latchkey kids for sure. So you come home, nobody's home. There, you were not allowed to do certain things, that like you weren't just going out to friends' houses if somebody didn't know that you were going there, and there was no cell phone to call. And no, you couldn't call a parent at work because unless it's an emergency, you don't bother somebody at work. And so that was the time period that we had at that point. And so I think for me, Little House on Prairie was one of those shows that were shown in the afternoon. So it was one of those things that I loved. And I loved the family aspect of it because I just thought, man, that's a nice family. They actually care about each other. And the first episode that I watched was when they were making Christmas gifts and she was twisting little tissues to make flowers. And I just thought this is amazing. I don't even ask me why, because looking back, it's not amazing, but I was just amazed that she was doing something and they were doing something that each person was doing something for somebody else in the family that they were usually handcrafting. And so I just thought this was absolutely amazing. And I've loved it ever since. And I felt like for the time period, some of and most of them, I have to say most of them, I felt like they were ahead of their time because they really addressed some very serious issues.
Yeah.
And I don't think when I was younger, the issue stood out as much to me because I was raised in a very religious home and environment. So I wasn't sheltered, so to speak, but those weren't things that we talked about all the
Mhm.
time. Those weren't things that we were addressing all the time. And with my dad having been a pastor, um, a lot of the stuff that they addressed was not something that we even talked about in our home or was around because my mom also was very protective of us. So I think for me, the reality was that if I were going to choose a family with the values I like, the morals that they were taught in some of their shows, that's the one I would want to choose. And now, as I started watching, it became my when you're crafting time, put on Little House on the Prairie because you've seen the episode, but then now you can just kind of hear it. Then I found myself like watching again because I'm like, I didn't remember that it was about that. How did I turn this around? From this is about adultery or this is about, whatever. Because as a kid, that wasn't what it was about,
Mhm.
it was just a good show. And now I look at it and I think, wow, they had some really um, serious meanings and motives and more morals, I guess would be the right way, I guess, to say it. Or, you know,
Well,
I know that's not the right word I want to use, but that
no, but
made me,
that is the right word. I mean, and those were conscious choices because, like,
they
Michael
were.
Landon, as anybody who he drank,
Yes,
the actor, the human, and I,
right.
I read Melissa Gilbert. I have
Yes,
read Melissa Gilbert's biography or
yes. Yeah.
autobiography that she
Yep.
wrote.
Yeah.
I have, um, and you know, he drank. That was a huge thing for him, but Charles Ingle did not, and even in Legacy, they had a reason to commiserate, and the guy offers
Right.
him a drink, and he's like, "Nope," because
Yep.
Charles Ingle doesn't.
Doesn't drink.
And
Yeah.
there was absolutely, and not only was there morals, but 100% you don't judge other people based on
Right.
their color, right? And we can talk
Right.
some of those episodes later,
Yeah.
and just that everybody has value and you look out
Yes.
for your family. And if you take
Yep.
somebody in or you give your word, you follow it. And
Yeah.
it can it's
And this was one of the few episodes that starts with what would have at that time been current time.
oh yeah, you're talking about the Legacy episode
Yes.
814, directed
Right.
by Charles himself. Well, I just said his name and I forgot it. Michael Landon.
Yeah.
And in this episode, it starts with, oh, I'm from Minnesota, so whenever I see the land of Little House on the Prairie, I think MASH, because it's like the
Yeah.
same hills that they filmed MASH in. And
Yeah.
there's these cars driving down the road. I'm like, that should be a buggy. And
Yeah.
there's a table with the initials,
Correct.
right? CI for Charles, and then it
Man.
goes back to Little House time where he's making this table. And you asked me to watch that episode, right? What stuck out? Why did you want me to watch that one?
Well, there was one main reason was because I know you like wood crafting. And so the fact that he was meticulous with his craft, and he starts off by saying, "This is just a hobby of mine." But somebody else saw the value in his hobby, and I think oftentimes when people have a talent, like you have a talent with your woodcraft, that you think of it as, this is a hobby. I do it for, people I care about. I make little gifts. I do whatever. When other people are looking at it as, oh my gosh, this is like an heirloom piece that's handcrafted, and the talent it took to make that. And so that's one thing that I stuck out for me. The other thing is that I thought, in terms of how I think we all tend to live our lives, is that certain things and certain incidents can shock us into thinking we need to change something or the path we're on. And it was the death of his friend that, that was transporting back and forth, with him, that died that died in the beginning. I know. I'm
Hey,
like,
Colin, you want to say hi? It's Deita.
hey, how are you?
Pretty good.
How's school going?
I think it's going pretty well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's doing very well. But I think this means that supper is ready.
Okay, so then we'll call it good. I wish I was there because I made dinner for my friend who I'm staying with, and this was her response. Yeah, I didn't really like it. Because you know how much I hate to cook. And she's like,
Ah,
very honest. Yeah, I didn't really like it. It was
oh,
the shell still in there for me.
oh. Well, so we'll have to come back to
Okay.
the legacy,
Okay.
and I'll text you and everything
Okay.
and plan our
Okay.
next one. But hey, this has been awesome.
So we'll do legacy part 2.
Yes.
All righty. All
All right,
right. Talk to you
love
later.
you,
Have a
Dita.
good dinner. Tell the family I said hi.
I will.
All right. Love you guys.